Hello, and welcome to Powered by Authenticity. I'm Emily Carlson, and I'm so glad to have you here today. A little bit different of a format. So up until now, we've always had a guest. We're going to take a step in a different direction for this episode and do a special series of just some solo conversations, talking about some of the things that are important to me. Today, we're going to start with how we're even here and how we got here. But first up, before we get into all of the fine tuning that is my life, we're going to ask Producer Ken. Producer Ken, how's it going today?
Doing pretty well.
What's your favorite thing to bake?
You know, I'm always torn. I love baking pies and different desserts, but at the same time, I've really started liking making bagels and different, more savory baked goods.
Awesome. Well, your pretzels are fantastic, so keep them coming. For me, I'm going to go old school and say it's my mom's brownie recipe. This poor recipe has definitely seen its better days, but when I take that recipe out of the box and I look at the handwriting and just it takes me back to a time when she was here, and it's a special memory. So, all right, let's get right into it. Who am I? It's a good question. We kind of kicked off the series with my daughter, Carol, and we talked about why being authentic was important, but a bit about myself. I am from Batavia, New York. I've been born, raised, continue to live here today. Wonderful small community. We love our community here. We love our Buffalo Bills and all things that are just wonderful to the local community. I've been married for 31 years. I've been a mom for 30 of those, thanks to producer Ken and his sister Carol, obviously that you guys all met in that first episode. And, part of how I got into technology was just the fact that I needed something where I could bring my son to work, where we could be together, where I could learn something, but I could also be a mom. And it's a struggle I think that everybody can relate to, or a lot of people can relate to. It's very difficult to try to balance those things together, especially when you're young, especially when you're 19 and trying to, really figure things out. So for me, the traditional go to college and then find a position in a career field were not the path that I took. I went into technology. I learned to put computers together. That was back in the day of 50 meg hard drives, and really just kind of learned from there. Learned that I had a passion for applications. And ultimately, the day that we enrolled Ken into nursery school, we went down the road a couple miles, and I also enrolled myself in college, ultimately with a degree in development with a minor focus in business. And from there, found my passion into all things support, project management, training, and really just kind of continued through not only what I learned in college, but also taking with me every experience from life into the next role. So that's just a little bit about myself, kind of how I got here. Through my career and through my life, though, things that really fueled me were in situations where I felt empowered. And I never was one to not be true to myself. So when I came up with the idea of hosting my own podcast, I really wanted it to be meaningful and representing who I am. And so two words that continue to always follow through to me when I'm working with people are empowered and authenticity. And I figured and really understood how I felt when I was fueled by that fire, by being able to be myself in every situation. There's so many who try to change who they are, especially when I look at the technology field. So many women try to change their personalities or change who they are in a certain role because it's meant, they feel like they need to be keeping up with men in the room, and that's just not who we need to be. We need to continue to be ourselves. So coming up with a name, I figured how I could put those two together was that I feel powered by being myself. I truly am empowered to be the person who I am today. And the reason I care about this topic so much, and the reason, again, that I wanted to make sure that I have a platform to use my voice as a catalyst for change, is that being from a small town, we didn't necessarily feel like we had the same support and opportunity. So I went to a school called Alexander Central from the city of Batavia. It's about a 15-minute drive, very small. I think my graduating class was under 100. And when we're trying to figure out in our junior and senior years what we were going to do and working with our counselors around the tables in our classrooms, they took the time to say, well, ultimately, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what is your dream job? And when they got to me, I remember it was not only my typing class, but my counselor at the time. What do you want to be, Emily? And I said, I want to be a CEO. And she looked at me and said, I'm sorry, but girls from Alexander can't be CEO. This was somebody who was supposed to support me. This was somebody who was supposed to be a champion and rally for what it was that I wanted to be. And to be told in that situation that it's not possible because of the demographic of where I live and who I am as a female was a cut to the knees that nobody should ever have to feel. And I just want to make sure that in this life and in this world that we're currently in, no younger female, no younger anybody, even males, should not be faced with the situation of being told they can't be something because of the demographic of where they live. And we need to change that. And I care now because we have the tools and the foundation to be able to have everyone be what they want to be when they grow up. My daughter should never hear that she can't do something because she's a girl, or she'd be too nurturing in the role. She would be too much of a caregiver. That just can't happen. You know, my son should never hear he can't do something because he lives in Batavia and it's not a large enough city for us to have something. It's just, that's not what anybody should hear. So I really am trying to use my voice, my platform, to make sure that we are being agents of change, catalysts of change, that anybody can come here and it's a safe space and we can talk about the challenges that we're facing. When I go into a room right now in meetings, I'm still one of the only females that is in that room. And I need the allies in the room to speak up for me and my behalf. I need the allies in my daughter's school to speak up on her behalf and say, yes, you can be anything that you want. So we need to make sure that as females, as representatives who have the voices and who have the platform to bring people in, to talk about the challenges and to continue to raise awareness. Some statistics and technology, and we're actually broadening the podcast. So when I started this podcast, I really was focused on technology because it's my wheelhouse. That's what I'm familiar with. And almost immediately, somebody reached out to me and said, why are you just using your voice for information technology? Do you not realize there are so many unbalanced professionals when it comes to the female-male ratio? So I started doing a little digging, and I found things like the athletic trainers, which we've had Eva Janowski on talking about the inequities that are currently facing those that go into being an athletic trainer who are females. But also, brewers. So we looked at that as another platform and another career field that is so wildly male-dominated, and we're not quite sure why. So not only are we using this as a way for us to talk about the imbalance and unbalanced representation of females within IT, but we also need to broaden this to other areas, because it doesn't matter if it's technology, it doesn't matter if it's athletic trainers or brewmasters or whatever it may be. What matters is the fact that we start talking about this more and more, and we start to really understand what we need to do to make the changes in the world happen, so that myself as a female, when I go into a boardroom and I am the only female at the table, I do not have to change who I am in order to make the same impact as my male counterparts. my niece, Eva, should not be facing a comment about being too nurturing to be a trainer. That just should not happen. Everybody is capable. It may be a different way that we approach our positions. I may use more empathy than my male counterparts when it comes to leading a team, but I will be successful. So I really want to make sure that we're continuing to use our voices here, use this platform as a way to advertise statistics, to talk about statistics, to talk about the impacts and why it's so important for us to reach out and have coaches and have mentors available to us, to have speaking engagements and talk about this in front of organizations and audiences that might feel it's an uncomfortable topic. Because if we're not talking about it and if we're not making people uncomfortable, we're not going to have any change. So just from a technology perspective, I wanted to put some statistics together for 1990 when I was told that I couldn't be a CEO versus now when I've made it to Chief Technology Officer. So we would think that these percentages of women being represented in a 31-year span, 33-year span, I'm a little bit concerned about having that real number there. We would think that the numbers would be better, that women would be far more represented in the tech field. However, we're not. So in 1990, let's just talk about this. 1990, women represented 37.1% of computer science degrees. That dropped to 26.7 in 1998. Today, 2023, that number is 28%. So 28% of women graduate with an engineering degree. 28%. That's absolutely tragic to think of the decline in numbers. In 1990, women represented 21% of workers in computer operations. Today, 17%. So we've dropped 4% of females being represented in technology jobs over the course of 23 years. That means the same struggles that were occurring in 1990 still occur today. I have to prioritize my career over my family, and I'm not going to do it. I don't have a flexible work environment. I can't seem to get ahead of my male colleagues. I'm not getting the credit that I deserve for the ideas that I bring forward. I'm facing microaggressions at every meeting, receiving unsolicited advice, and it's not changing. It's getting worse. 4% lower today in 2023 than in 1990. That means that teacher of mine, that guidance counselor, there's so many more people who are out there telling younger women that they can't do it. And that has to change. We have to use platforms, podcasts, blogs, is anything that we can do to get our voices out there to make sure that young women are knowing that they're supported across all of the career platforms. Whatever they choose to do, they can do it. So here, I'm Powered by Authenticity. That is absolutely my goal, is to make sure that we have a place where we can talk about the uncomfortable topics, where we can talk about why decisions were made from females to have to leave careers and then come back to them, what they face when they do come back into the career field, what it means to need a mentor, what it needs to mean to have a coach, just some of those difficult things that need to be brought up so that we can change the trajectory. Because right now, we're continuing to be on a downward spiral, and we're not going to make progress within IT or any of the career fields if we do not continue to change the way in which we're speaking with people, not to people, but with people about topics of equity and inclusion. So that's just a little bit of a breakdown. We kind of went fast and furious into Powered by Authenticity, and we wanted to take a chance to give a little bit of my backdrop and why this is important to me, why it continues to be important to me. And it's going to be times where we really are looking at different ways that we can make sure that we're changing the way people are thinking about standard careers, standard ways that we go about obtaining careers, choices that we have to make, and why it's okay to have to make those choices. So thanks for my first solo podcast. I'm glad that you hopefully have joined and enjoyed this conversation and this topic. I really do want to continue to use this platform. If there's specific career fields that you really want us to dig into from a statistics and have key leaders in that area on the podcast to discuss those career topics, please feel free to reach out to us. I can be reached at Emily_Carlson@yahoo.com. You can also feel free to leave a message on our comment section of the website, poweredbyauthenticity.com. And we'll be happy to address each one of those questions, look into the areas that you have questions about when it comes to gender equity and inclusion in all career areas. So I want to thank you today. I once again want to thank GoArt for the use of their podcast room. It is an absolutely amazing community area that we have here. Again, small communities and communities supporting one another are an amazing thing to see, and we'll continue to bring those forward as well. Producer Ken, thanks for being here today.
You got it.
And we look forward to more episodes of not only solo conversations, but also those with guests across key areas and subject matter experts within their area of expertise. So thank you for joining today, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.